This is CBN NewsWatch.
And thank you so much for joining us for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. Congress may be one step closer to hearing directly from Robert Mueller. The congressional testimony from the special counsel is at the top of the Democrats' wish list, but President Donald Trump drew the line Sunday. The president tweeted, "Are they looking for a redo because they hated seeing the strong no collusion? Bob Mueller should not testify. No redos for the Dems." Republicans on the Senate Judiciary Committee are open to the testimony, but agree it is time to move forward.
Many of my Democratic friends thought that Mueller was going to indict the president. And so the Mueller report was kind of like a hair on their biscuit. And now they don't know what to do, so they're attacking Bill Barr. And my feeling about it is it's time to move on. I understand that Washington is not the big rock candy mountain and that politics is in everybody's blood. But I think we ought to spend a little bit of our time talking about the next generation as opposed to the next election.
Amber Strong is following this story for us and joins us now from our Washington bureau. So, Amber, how close is Congress to hearing from Special Counsel Robert Mueller?
Good morning, Ephraim. So Congressman David Cicilline yesterday tweeted that May 15th is the date that House Democrats have proposed to Mueller's team to come and testify. And there are reports that behind the scenes, Mueller's team is working this out. And then when you move to the Senate side, Senate Judiciary Chairman Lindsey Graham, who last week shut down the entire notion of a Mueller testimony, sent a letter to Mueller and said, if you want to come and clarify some things, or if you want to clarify some things in a testimony, we're open to that. We don't know what that testimony is going to look like, if it's going to be behind closed doors, if it's going to be open to the public, or if it comes in the form of a statement. But we do know that that letter was sent to Robert Mueller.
Amber, remind us why Democrats say they need his testimony.
Democrats are saying that they want to know more about why Robert Mueller couldn't come to the obstruction conclusion. Why couldn't you say that the president committed obstruction? And then they want to know, Democrats and Republicans, about this conversation that supposedly took place between Bill Barr and Robert Mueller in the days after the investigation closed. We know that Robert Mueller sent a letter to Bill Barr. We know that they had a conversation about maybe some things that the special counsel's team was unhappy about when it comes to Bill Barr's summary. So Democrats and a few Republicans want to know exactly what happened during that conversation.
All right, Amber Strong, thank you so much for following this story for us. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Ephraim.
It was a turbulent weekend in Israel, but after 2 days of violence, Hamas said it agreed to a ceasefire. Still, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu issued a statement indicting that the battle was not over. CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl is on this story.
Sirens blared, sending Israelis to bomb shelters as Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad launched more than 700 rockets at southern Israel in less than 48 hours.
Those rockets are dangerous. Those rockets can be deadly. Those rockets are being fired by the Hamas towards the civilian population here in Israel.
One rocket landed right here, spraying shrapnel through the window of the house behind me, killing one man who didn't make it to his shelter on time. It's the first time in 5 years that an Israeli civilian was killed in a rocket attack.
And if we take into consideration how many people there are inside the southern part of Israel, in the major cities and in the kibbutzim, and in the local different communities, we're talking about more than 1 million Israelis under the threat of those rockets from the Gaza Strip.
3 other Israelis died after that in separate rocket attacks. More than 150 rockets were intercepted by Israel's Iron Dome, but several made direct hits on homes.
Hamas and the PIJ are operating together. They are coordinating their fire, and they have fired massive amounts of rockets at different Israeli cities.
Israel struck back, hitting some 350 terror targets. That included a terrorist responsible for transferring Iranian funds to groups inside Gaza.
Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad are able to smuggle into the Gaza Strip as well as produce substantial amounts of rockets of different calibers capable of striking Israeli civilians. We see Iranian fingerprints mostly in the Gaza Strip, focused on the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, but not limited to. That materializes in money, weapons, logistic support, military training, and of course political guidance.
U.S. Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib blamed Israel for what she called unjustly oppressing and targeting Palestinian children and families while President Trump tweeted out U.S. backing for Israel, saying, "We support Israel 100% in its defense of its citizens." For now, it's quiet. Many think Israel's Memorial Day, Independence Day, and an upcoming international song contest in Tel Aviv put the brakes on Israel's response. But most believe it's just a matter of time before the situation explodes again, and Israel will have to decide if it will take more forceful action. Julie Stahl, CBN News, Ashkelon in southern Israel.
North Korea's test of what appears to be a new short-range ballistic missile may not have been a direct threat to the United States. But experts warn it is almost certainly a hint of bigger problems on the horizon, with Kim Jong-un's missiles improving. The test, complete with photos of a bullseye out to sea, alarmed Washington's regional allies, even as the Trump administration works to resume talks with the North Korean dictator. The Pentagon has approved deploying an aircraft carrier and other military resources to the Middle East in hopes of sending a strong warning to Iran. White House National Security Advisor John Bolton said Sunday the move was in response to, quote, a number of troubling and escalatory indications and warnings. He said the United States wants Iran to know unrelenting force will meet any attack on the U.S. interest or those of its allies. After a week of unrest in Venezuela, the future of the people there appears as uncertain as ever. CBN News national security correspondent Eric Phillips reports those who study turbulent governors say the last uprising in Venezuela may just be a battle and not the war.
Caracas seems almost normal now. A stark contrast to days ago. 4 people killed and hundreds injured in a revolt led by self-proclaimed interim president Juan Guaido. He and supporters trying to topple leader Nicolas Maduro and hold a fair election. The effort, though energetic, proved unsuccessful, at least for now. But Michael O'Hanlon with the Brookings Institution says that could change.
There's no algorithm, there's no science to predicting what's going to happen next. It's a test of will, it's a test of loyalty of institutions, and it's a test at some level of the humaneness of the leader, who we already know is not really humane.
O'Hanlon says it's important for the U.S. to build more support for a Venezuelan democracy with neighboring countries.
We need the Colombias, the Brazils, the Chiles, the Argentinas, even the Ecuadors and Bolivias if we can, and Mexico. And so developing a strategy that makes whatever happens a unified Western Hemisphere action.
Especially considering the support Maduro is likely getting from Iran, as discussed on CBN's 700 Club.
We can only imagine what role the Iranians might be playing in providing logistics, weapons, technical support to Maduro, and what that could potentially mean for the rest of the continent, and no less for the United States.
In Washington, 4 people were arrested Thursday when pro-Guaido protesters squared off against Maduro supporters at the Venezuelan embassy. Meanwhile, the United States is not backing off.
The brutal repression of the Venezuelan people must end, and it must end soon.
According to the White House, during a phone call Friday, the president reiterated that to Russian President Vladimir Putin, who supports Maduro.
The president is continuing to push for aid to be delivered to those people. Beyond that, I don't have any updates, but all options continue to be on the table.
And that was Eric Phillips reporting. When asked if there would be any timetable for military intervention, the White House has declined to comment on that, only saying right now the emphasis is on diplomacy and providing aid to the people of Venezuela. Russian officials are giving out conflicting numbers on the death toll in a fiery airline crash at a Moscow airport. A spokesperson for Russia's investigative committee says 41 people died in Sunday evening's accident and that 37 people survived. Russia's health minister has not given a death toll but says 38 people survived. The fire aboard the regional jet flown by Aerolov broke out after the plane made a hard emergency landing. A Chinese spokesperson says a team from Beijing is preparing to travel to the United States, suggesting trade talks might go ahead despite President Donald Trump's latest tariff threat. The spokesperson said Beijing is trying to get more information following President Trump's surprise announcement in tweets that he might impose 25% tariffs on more Chinese imports. Popular Christian writer Rachel Held Evans passed away Saturday. She was 37. in April. In a Twitter post, she wrote she was in the hospital with the flu and AUTI. She later had a severe allergic reaction to antibiotics and developed seizures. Doctors put her in a medically induced coma, but some seizures returned when her medical team attempted to wean her from the coma medications. She was married with 2 children and was a New York Times best-selling author. Coming up, one of the biggest pro-life events ever in New York, despite a lot of opposition. Stay with us for that story.
CBN presents The I Wills of God, your path to overcoming fear and anxiety.
We're going to talk about some of the incredible promises God has made to His children.
In Pat Robertson's newest teaching, you'll discover the I Wills of God. I will rescue him, protect him, answer him, be with him in trouble, deliver him, honor him, satisfy him with long life, show him my salvation, and see amazing stories of God's promises in action.
What I felt was loved and treasured.
God spared my life twice in 3 days.
The good Lord had given me a second chance.
Break free from stress and despair.
The Lord doesn't want you to live in fear, but to know the rewards given to those who love God.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or visit CBN.com. The I Wills of God, your path to overcoming fear and anxiety.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
Get the top political news and analysis from Washington on Faith Nation, tonight at 6 Eastern, only on the CBN News Channel.
The issue of life took front and center this weekend in New York's Times Square. In its first ever Alive from New York event, Focus on the Family turned out a massive show of support to protect the unborn. Jenna Browder brings us the story from Manhattan.
Alive from New York.
Fatherhood begins in the womb.
A star-studded pro-life event in the heart of Times Square. There are live performances, speeches, all sorts of things happening here. But the main event is a live ultrasound.
There's those little lips.
The ultrasound was performed on Abby Johnson, a pro-life activist and the inspiration behind the movie Unplanned.
This is a baby! This right here is a baby!
All of this in response to the decision of New York and other states to legalize abortion up until the moment of birth. Focus on the Family says 10,000 people registered for the event. And it wasn't just the pro-life crowd that showed up. A large and very vocal group of protesters set up across the street. Focus on the Family initially hoped to use the billboards in Times Square, but President Jim Daley says their plans fell through.
Well, we had 12 weeks to plan the event, and so we went right to the Jumbotrons to see if we can rent the space. And initially, they all said yes in different ways. Then when we began to describe what we were going to do, they started not returning phone calls or saying that this would be too political and they're uncomfortable with it.
CBN News reached out to those companies. ABC gave us this statement. It is our policy that we do not accept live advertising on our Times Square video screen. And Clear Channel Outdoor. Upon learning that ads on our billboards require a creative approval, they never presented any artwork for review.
That's really not accurate. They knew exactly what we were going to do, and they told us they were uncomfortable with it.
Still, Live from New York turned out to be the city's largest ever pro-life event. And that's encouraging news, especially in today's culture. In Times Square, Jenna Browder, CBN News.
Still ahead, a unique service that goes deep to help military members and their families. Stay with us.
It's about the competition.
I kind of put that pressure on myself, and I think people had expectations.
It's about overcoming.
We use this phrase all the time, keep chopping, keep practicing hard.
It's about going the distance.
I think as a father, it's my job, to lead, just be the best husband and father I can be.
Watch Going the Distance with Sean Brown Saturday night at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Woohoo! Hi, Superbook fans. Here's something else you'll love. It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
The Millsburg Falls man coming.
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes, too. And so much more! Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon. It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
Discover the I wills of God. I will rescue him, protect him, answer him, be with him in trouble, deliver him, honor him, satisfy him with long life, show him my salvation.
What I felt was loved and treasured.
God spared my life twice in 3 days.
The good Lord had given me a second chance.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or visit cbn.com. The I wills of God, the latest teaching from Pat Robertson.
CBN News Daily Rundown podcast each weekday with me, Caitlin Burke. Click on the show tab at cbnnews.com where you can listen and subscribe.
The U.S. military not only protects our country, it is sent around the world to bring order to nations ravaged by civil war. Although the men and women prepare mentally and physically for their deployments, their spiritual well-being can often be neglected. Our Talia Wise shows us how one ministry is introducing them to Christ.
Active duty soldiers go through rigorous training to be able to fight on the front lines of combat. But despite that physical training, their spiritual well-being is oftentimes overlooked, and they suffer in silence from things like post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, and depression. So one nonprofit is helping soldiers by getting them involved in extreme sports in order to share the gospel and the message that true freedom and healing can be found in Christ.
This is Soul Survivor Outdoor. And this high-flying crew is a part of what it looks like to reach active-duty military soldiers with the gospel.
Because you get people up on the side of a rock or a mountain, and it challenges them in ways that they aren't getting challenged in an office environment when they're going, doing normal day-to-day routine.
Rick Wolf is a retired Marine Corps lieutenant colonel and the founder of Soul Survivor Outdoor. He started the program after finding deployed combat soldiers returning home battling serious problems like PTSD, substance abuse, and suicide.
Whether we're talking about the veteran population or the active duty population, we know that statistically that the suicide rates are not coming down, that depression, anxiety, these things are pretty significant in the society in general, and the military is a cut of the cloth.
Wolf says that although there are programs to help veterans and active duty soldiers manage these issues, most don't deal with the root cause.
And as Christians, we know that the real answer is Jesus Christ.
So Wolf takes them off base and into the air or on top of a mountain to deal with real issues and lead them to Christ. And the message he shares rings true in the hearts of these warriors.
That your value as a human being, whether you're in the military or someplace else, it's intrinsic because it comes from your Creator and not from your career or your status or your phone or something else, but that you really have value.
So far, more than 5,000 active duty soldiers have attended Soul Survivor events, and last year alone, 400 soldiers gave their life to Christ. Wolf says the church is missing an opportunity to evangelize soldiers.
You know, I went mentally and physically prepared to Afghanistan, but I don't believe I was spiritually prepared. And you have to have organizations like Soul Survivor who are going to take an intentional effort to be able to prepare these warriors, not just mentally, not just physically, but spiritually for the hardships of military life.
Wolf says his organization has only begun to scratch the surface. And with 165,000 active duty soldiers deployed in more than 150 countries around the world, there's an opportunity to share the gospel globally. That's CBN Good News. I'm Talia Wise. Until next time, make time to spread a little bit of good news.
And still ahead, one of the latest animated movies at the box office with a lot of heart and a great message. We'll take a closer look. Stay with us.
CBN presents The I Wills of God, your path to overcoming fear and anxiety.
We're going to talk about some of the incredible promises God has made to His children.
In Pat Robertson's newest teaching, you'll discover the I wills of God. I will rescue him, protect him, answer him, be with him in trouble, deliver him, honor him, satisfy him with long life, show him my salvation, and see amazing stories of God's promises in action.
What I felt was loved and treasured.
God spared my life twice in 3 days.
The good Lord had given me a second chance.
Break free from stress and despair.
The Lord doesn't want you to live in fear, but to know the rewards given to those who love God.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or visit CBN.com. The I Wills of God, your path to overcoming fear and anxiety.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
Young people, millennials, are flocking to church.
It's not an exaggeration to say that we love to meet them and that we love to know their stories.
Ugly Dolls opened at the box office with a little more than $8 million. Singers Kelly Clarkson and Pitbull are two of the famous voices behind the new animated film. They're both residents of the delightfully different town of Uglyville, where weirdness is celebrated, strangeness is common, and beauty is much more than meets the eye.
There's a child for every doll, and a doll for every child. Who knows just how they're chosen? The stories seldom say. It could happen any moment, and today could be the day.
Yo, wake up, Moxie!
Good morning, Peggy.
That's a voice from The Voice. Kelly Clarkson as Moxie.
Hey, Moxie, what's barking?
Just the greatest news ever. Today's the day. I can feel it.
Leading a cast of ugly dolls in the land of Uglyville.
When would you say the last time you've had to be or pay a visit to Uglyville? When were you last in Uglyville as a person?
Well, this morning, before my team got a hold of me, I was like, my glam squad has a wand.
Kelly pulls along Blake Shelton, Janelle Monáe, and Nick Jonas along for this fun musical animated ride.
I know you're home to go to the big, you know where. And you're here to try to earn your ticket there.
A journey from Uglyville to the town of perfection.
What's Kelly Clarkson's perfect imperfection?
Well, a lot of people might find it annoying that I talk a lot, but I love being a lot of those people might be like Blake and Adam from The Voice. But I love talking. I just love conversation. I love all, like, there's no topic that's off the table. Like, I think I love people so much because I feel like we have so many commonalities that we don't really realize until you start the conversation.
Hey, dogs! I own a dog!
Rapper Pitbull lends his voice to the film.
You call that a dog? It's all right, guys. Slick Dogs got this.
How much of a stretch was Ugly Dog for Pitbull?
Oh, it was a long stretch. Oh, man, it was hard to play this character right here. Man, it's been a lot of fun, a lot of excitement, and a true honor to be able to work with everybody that's involved in the film. But more than anything, it's almost like therapy because you get a chance to be you as a character. Yeah. You know, a little ugly dog, and then you got Slick Dog. That's Slick Dog right there. I like that. Yeah, real quick, yeah, boom, right back. So, as you can see, having fun doing it. But more than anything, what I love is the message of the movie. And the message of the movie, especially with society today, is all about, hey, I've been flipping the word ugly, which is you gotta love yourself. Yeah. And once people figure that out, man, let me tell you, it's a great world out there, man. It becomes a lot of fun.
What are you doing? Having fun, getting crazy, getting loose. Go, I'll stall him. Go, go, go.
When's the last time you, Pitbull, have felt like a resident of Uglyville?
Oh man, my whole life. Yeah, outcast one way or another. Whether it's through where you're from, whether it's through culture, whether it's through different countries and families trying to get over and create another, I would say, live the American dream. And I wouldn't have it any other way, to be honest with you. Being from Miami in a melting pot, there's so many different cultures from so many different places that you get a chance to see that we're really not that different. We're very similar.
Indeed,
Yeah.
we are. We're more alike than we are unlike.
Correct. I'm gonna have to borrow that one back.
I borrowed it too.
Yeah. We're more alike than we are unlike. I like that.
Right. Time now for your Monday motivation, and today I leave you with this thought. It is something we often say, greeting fellow believers in church. God is good all the time, and all the time, God is good. Remember, that is true even when situations you face don't feel or look good. The bottom line, God causes all things to work together for your good. Well, that is going to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember, you can find more on the issues you care most about always at cbnnews.com. You can also watch CBN News programs throughout the day on the CBN News channel. We'd love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can do that by emailing newswatch@cbn.com. And of course, you can always reach out and touch us on Facebook, on Twitter, and Instagram. Hope you'll join us again right here next time. Make it a marvelous Monday. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.